Hello everyone and welcome to the Chrissy B Show. And we are the UK's only TV programme that's dedicated to your mental health and well-being. Now today's episode is all about turning something negative into a positive. Now we all feel negatively about something at some point, it's human nature, but sometimes that negativity can build and actually become debilitating. This was very nearly the case for my guest tonight. They are Claire Namukolo, who launched the Hair Heals campaign to raise awareness of the different forms of hair loss. I will also be joined by filmmaker Kenneth King, who has risen above a turbulent upbringing and severe illness to focus his energies on writing and shooting films. I will also be joined by our resident psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, and we'll see our very own Pax Brown visiting Big Mo's Diner in Aldgate. Then later on, I'll be talking about 4 ways to become more positive. Now, are you an optimist or a pessimist? Well, according to research undertaken by YouGov, this will depend an awful lot on how financially successful you are. As they say, there appears to be a strong correlation between prosperity and pessimism. But does being rich make you an optimist? Well, no, in fact, it's the opposite. Of the 7 countries that took part in the survey, India, the poorest, was actually the most optimistic, whilst the richest country, America, was in fact the most pessimistic. So it just goes to show that money can't buy you happiness. Well, I'll be discussing some of the reasons why this is with our psychologist Dr Audrey Tang soon, but first let's hear what some of you have to say about the matter. Let's take a look at some tweets. Lau says, stop stressing over things you can't control or change. Overthinking leads to negative thoughts. Be grateful and focus on the positive. Sierra says, do not waste your thoughts and time on negative things or people. Catherine believes if you realize how powerful your thoughts are, you'd never think a negative thought ever again. Tiela says, don't be afraid to cut off negative people in your life. It's called your life for a reason. Positive energy only. Psychological facts say emotions are contagious. Unpleasant or negative emotions are more contagious than neutral or positive emotions. Well, now it's time to catch the day's news with Pax Brown. Are you an optimist or a pessimist, Pax?
Hello, Chrissy. Yes, I am definitely an optimist and proud to be one too. However, many of us don't realize how bad the effects of negativity can be on our mental health. In fact, negative thoughts are the #1 cause of chronic depression, reports Wake Up World website. Depression is actually your body's defense mechanism against those negative thoughts. It can be very challenging to recognize that someone, or that even you, are regularly thinking negatively. 6-time triathlon world championship winner Mark Allen talks about how he used to feel depressed when regularly losing, but no one ever took notice of his situation. He is now a record-breaking champion thanks to forcing radical change in his thought patterns. Another inspiring story from theinquirer.net, where Cecilia Ernie writes about how important it is to remind yourself of the wonderful things that some people have achieved from rough situations by simply maintaining a positive attitude. She writes about a daughter of unmarried teenage parents who grew up in a pig farm raised by her grandmother and was dressed in potato sacks and was also abused by her relatives, very sadly. This woman is Oprah Winfrey, who is now worth $2.9 million and is probably the most influential African-American woman in the world. So the bottom line here seems to be the difference between the people who succeed and those who don't is how they choose to react to negative situations. You either give up or you come out of it stronger. And some examples of celebrities who come out of some bad situations much stronger are writer J.K. Rowling, actresses Charlize Theron and Demi Moore, actor Tom Cruise, and even Albert Einstein. They all had traumatic experiences at different times in their lives. Living through those tough times actually made them into much stronger individuals, and obviously very successful ones as well. And next, we all know how daunting it can be to receive criticism for your work. Forbes magazine seems to have a good solution. They say the secret to receiving criticism is to always assume that the critic has good intentions. Taking criticism positively means using it as a chance to improve yourself and your work. The article also demonstrates how receiving criticism with positivity can strengthen your relationships in the workplace. That's all from me, guys. Now back to you, Chrissy.
Thank you, Pax, and of course he is an optimist. So now I'm joined by Dr Audrey Tang. Welcome to the show, Audrey.
Hello, Chrissy. Thank you for having me.
So lovely to have you on again.
It's really great to be here.
So we are going to pick your brainy brains, like we normally do on this show. So what is the link between prosperity and pessimism? Because that's quite surprising in some ways.
It is. There was a wonderful book written a couple of years ago by Oliver James called Affluenza. And he talked about the more prosperous the countries were, such as the US and the UK, the more disappointed most of us were feeling with our lives. And largely this is because of consumer culture. What happens is, because we do have a relatively strong buying power, we tend to judge our wealth and our well-being by what we own rather than necessarily what we feel. And with social media being as it is, the only things we actually have to compare ourselves on will be things like the holidays we've taken, the photographs we're posting up there, usually showing our possessions. And because we don't live in each other's houses, we don't know what the real relationship's like, what the fundamentals of that family are like. And so we kind of judge each other on this superficial side. Also, he talks about celebrity culture. Now that we have social media platforms, as do celebrities, we can't help but compare ourselves with them because we've got a platform, they've got a platform. We're kind of similar, except we're not. We've got to consider they may have, well, they've got very different lifestyles. They have a lot more money in a lot of cases. And that's it's an unfair comparison that we're putting on ourselves. And then, of course, there's adverts, because they all tell us that to be happy, we need this particular lifestyle. And effectively, they tell us we're not going to be that happy unless we actually buy into that. And that's where the more affluent countries can start feeling quite disappointed just because we have so much, but we still want some more. To kind of develop this a little bit further as well, with countries that are still growing, another thing that researchers found is there's some huge sense of community. And what they will say is, if you were left homeless tomorrow, you can find someone to go to. In a more affluent country, actually it's a little bit harder, because a lot of people have the mindset, which can be a very positive mindset of, I've done this by myself, I have earned this, and so it's less of a case of, I'll just come in and I'll support you. Of course, there are very, very kind people and compassionate people, don't get me wrong, but in smaller communities, there is that feeling of, I may not have much, but what I have is yours to share. So,
and I was talking about India in the intro, so how in the survey, they came out to be the most optimistic, which is amazing, wasn't it?
And well, also places like India, which are growing cultures, they can learn from westernized cultures such as the UK, US, and there's still further to go for them. When you're trying to, say, break out into a new market here, you have to find something that no one else has got yet. And the niches become smaller to actually develop or to start. And also the alternative then becomes, well, join somebody's company, which you then may feel, I'm not achieving my full potential. It's led us to a point where we confuse sort of what we need with what we want, and that's the hard part.
And what role does family play in a person being optimistic or pessimistic, would you say?
It plays a huge role. When you look at European countries, Denmark comes out as one of the happiest, and one of the things they do is they spend so much family time together.
Really?
I was actually there once over a weekend, and I was so used to being able to go to the shops on a Sunday and kind of go about my daily life on a Sunday. Everything was shut, but all the families were in the park, they were playing, they were outside.
We don't see that much over here, do we, Audrey?
And it was wonderful. I mean, they have a lot more open space perhaps than say London, but they make time for each other, and that makes a huge difference. They have that Sunday as that's their quality time, that's what's going to happen. Nowadays we do sit probably watching television on our smartphones, doing things whilst having dinner, and this is not necessarily the fault of anybody, because you've got parents holding down 2 jobs now to actually pay rent and pay bills. So
it's difficult.
It's very difficult.
All right, great insight as usual, Audrey. Thank you so much, and we shall see you again next time.
Thank you.
All right, guys, so don't go away, because after the break, I'll be joined by Claire Namukolo, who's a spokesperson for the Hair Heals campaign, and I'll also be hearing what you out there think about feeling positive. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, the only TV program that tackles your mental health and well-being. Well, so far we've heard from our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, who told me all about what makes us feel negative and what makes us feel positive. And now I'm delighted to be joined by Claire Namukolo, who is here to talk about her Hair Heals campaign. Welcome to the show, Claire.
Thank you. Thank you
lovely
for
to
having
have
me.
you on.
Thank you.
So, Claire, tell us about what started to happen with you, your personal story with hair loss.
I've always thought of coming out and speaking about hair loss. Before I actually launched the campaign, I experienced postpartum hair loss, which is hair loss that you experience after childbirth.
Okay. So you never had an issue before with your hair before that? I
did have hair loss in terms of what we call the black women of colour sort of hair loss, because we call it that because we experience hair loss when we braid our hair. And you know, our hair does fall off, but we don't really label that as hair loss. We just put up with it and don't necessarily talk about it. But I came to a realization that I should speak about hair loss when I actually lost my hair after childbirth, because I was trying to, you know, to put up with having to have a child, the changes of my body as well, and then all of a sudden the hair was coming out, and then to try and get my confidence back, I used more hair products to be able to make my hair look straight, you know, which we do as black women. So that's when I thought I needed to start talking about hair loss, because at that time when I was experiencing hair loss after just giving birth to a child, I didn't have anyone to talk to, and the research that I did was obviously online, says that, you know, it's a normal procedure that anyone goes through after childbirth. But
did you lose all of your hair? So was it half of it? How did it actually affect you?
Well, it's quite different when you're losing hair. It comes in different forms. In the beginning, it comes out, all of it just comes off. You know, when you're trying to have a shower, all of it just comes off.
What does that feel like then when you just see that happening? Can you describe the kind of things that you went through?
Yeah, it's the most frightening thing, because you're thinking that maybe, you know, you've got an illness, you've got a disease that you don't know about, you know. You might think you actually have a much more worse disease like cancer, and you're scared to tell someone that you love, someone that you care for, because they might get really anxious as well. And so I just figured the best way to do is to put up with it, really. And I did put up.
So you kept it all to yourself?
I kept it all to myself.
That must have been hard.
It was very hard. Even talking about it right now is a hard thing, you know. But it made me realise that there's a lot of other women out there that are going through the same experience, even though that was not my only experience of hair loss, because after I experienced hair loss after using products, you know, like hair relaxers, to be able to have straight hair. And so when I experienced that form of hair loss, I was much more equipped to cope with hair loss itself, because I had gained that defense mechanism to be able to say, you know, it's okay, I can just buy a wig, I can just buy a weave. And yes, I would say my confidence grew just by wearing wigs, you know, and having hair extensions in my hair, and my hair eventually grew back. But hair loss is not a good experience, because when I was going through, you know, the experience itself, I felt like, you know, everything else on my body is not important. The only thing that's important is my hair.
Because people do pay attention to hair, don't they?
Yes.
It's just so, obviously always in the media and everything like that. So it is, you know, and I think more even for men now, because before we used to think it's just the ladies that are worried about their hair, but men are as well, aren't they?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do in the campaign, the Hair Heals campaign. Our main focus is to address the effects of hair loss in men, and we have had so many men come forward to talk about, you know, their experience with hair loss. And the most surprising part of the whole campaign is that the men who've come to us are young guys from the age of 20 till 30 who are losing hair. and they lose their hair due to stress, anxiety, depression, and any other medically proven forms of hair loss. They lose their hair and they feel like they cannot go to get a wig because they'll be laughed at, so they'll be stigmatized for wearing a wig, or they cannot get any form of help to replace their hair, so they just shave the whole hair off, when they're having bald patches. So men do experience hair loss, and they're more holding it in as compared to women who just go out there and are accepted if they buy a wig, and they can still go out there and say,
and no one will say anything. It's
yes,
yeah, they'll probably get lots of compliments and it's normal. But then if a guy suddenly does it, like all the talk when Rooney had the hair transplant.
Yes.
Because there was so much talk about that in the media and everything, wasn't there? So it was like...
There was, so much talk. And, he has continued to have, because he hasn't had it once, he's had it a few times. Yeah. I mean, not just Wayne Rooney. Chris from Googlebox just had he's had his hairline replaced, and he's so confident and happy about that. It's nice to see that people are now coming out and saying, I have been to a triologist, I've seen a triologist, and now I'm going to get my hair fixed, and I'll be showing off my hairline pretty soon.
Yes. Claire, how did you actually put this whole campaign together? How did you get it sort of off the ground and so popular as well?
So I organised the Liverpool Urban Hair Show in Liverpool. Ironically, it's an event that celebrates hair.
Okay.
So in doing that, I actually went back to the drawing board, because the Liverpool Urban Hair Show itself is an event that is dedicated to supporting local charitable causes as well.
Okay.
So for each event that we've done, we have supported a charity. So we've supported Pride, we've supported Liverpool One Foundation, and I figured out that we were doing a good job supporting charities, but we were not supporting charities that I felt were more from what I feel is from my heart, really. And so I decided to start coming out and showing people who I really am, and I decided to come out with Hair Heals. And so initially we were talking about the Liverpool Urban Hair Show on one media interview, and then they managed to come out and sort of talk about Hair Heals with us, and that's how the campaign started, because they thought, wow, you're celebrating hair, and on the other side, you started a campaign that is a lot more reaching to the people as compared to celebrations. People actually want to know that there's someone else out there that's feeling and experiencing the same thing that they're experiencing, and so we started the campaign, and it's been really, it's going much better than the hair show itself, because we have so many people coming out, who suffered from alopecia. I've had a lady who I've spoke to yesterday from my community, the Black community, who came out. Black people never come out to talk about hair loss. And I know it can be surprising to any other person, but we never come out, And she came to me and she said, actually, I do have alopecia, but don't tell anyone. And I was like, oh, don't mind. I have experienced hair loss myself, and we're in this together. We're going to do it. We're going to campaign, and we're going to bring people forward in groups to talk about it from all ethnicities, and we're going to be confidently walking with wigs out there and trying on wigs together.
That's so nice. And where do you see the future of this campaign going, Claire?
So we are launching it into a charity. So once we launch it into a charity, we are going to be able to offer support, emotional support, and practical skills of how to cope with any form of hair loss. It could be bald patches, it could be thinning edges, any form of hair loss. We are going to be able to talk about it, create groups, activities that can help people improve their confidence. And we want it to be a very positive atmosphere as well, where we do events that are focused on saying someone without hair, someone who's bald, especially bald men, we want to be able to involve them into projects, because Chrissy, I spoke to a guy who was bald, and he told me from the time he lost his hair at 25, and he felt like no female was able to date him again, and that's when he lost himself. That's what he said. And he said that he wanted to be a model. You know, I always wanted to be a model, but because I lost my hair, all the dreams were crushed. And I figured, we do a hair fashion show and we're always looking for models, and he's right, we would never get someone who's bought to be a model, and why not? You know,
it's so true, isn't it, when you sort of think about it and break it down. Now, Claire, what I find really nice as well is that you sort of mentioned that you found sort of talking about the hair loss experience difficult to talk about, but you've done it on TV now. And that's amazing, and that just shows how much that campaign has given you confidence to even come on TV and speak about it.
It might be you that's made me a bit more confident, but it is a hard thing to talk about because you don't want to show your vulnerable side. And I'm sure after this campaign, everyone will be asking me, is that your hair or is that hair extensions? And I'm sure I won't answer that question because that's part of the campaign. But yes, I've grown in confidence talking about hair, and it's been a great experience meeting other people from different backgrounds as well. It's
a great initiative, Claire. Thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us, and wish you all the best with the future of the campaign and setting up the charity.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's lovely. Right, guys, so thanks very much to Claire there, and now it's time to hear what some of you out there think about feeling positive with our resident optimist, Pax Brown.
Do you often experience negative thoughts?
Thoughts? A little bit, yeah.
Of course, everybody has.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yes.
When you have negative thoughts, do you realize you're having them? Are you conscious about it?
Yeah, I am. And I don't like it.
Most of the times, yes, hopefully.
I do, yeah. Yes.
And how do you usually deal with negative thoughts?
I meditate and try to forget. Like, I just try to think about nothing and maybe get a solution.
Well, I'm trying to go to a quiet place, like take a few breaths and let it go away.
I usually just tell myself that it's just one part of the day or my life in general, and that it's not gonna always be that way.
Yeah, exactly, and that there's a reason for everything.
Do you think it's possible to consciously change your thoughts from being negative to being positive?
Yeah, definitely.
Not very regularly for the time being.
Absolutely, I think a lot of it is psychological, and if you put your mind to specifically changing your thought process, I think it's definitely possible.
Yeah, exactly. I think of what good comes out of that, because good can come out of any situation, so I try to think about the positive issues with that negative situation.
Do you think it's better to be a little bit too positive or a little bit too negative?
I think a balance for everything in life is good. If you can take that, if you can get that, it's perfect. But I'm not saying that I take it, because maybe I'm too positive and that's not good.
That's a tricky one. I think you should rather mix and match, you know, it depends on the situation. I mean, sometimes you must be an ass, some other times you must wait and keep your head down.
I feel like it's always better to look on the bright side, because then, yeah, it's better to be optimistic than pessimistic, I think.
Yeah, always glass half full than half empty.
Give a message to all the people who are stuck in a cycle of negativity.
Yeah, just try to meditate, and self-knowledge is very important. Just ask yourself why that's happening to you, and I think that's pretty much it. Just like try to meditate and try to not avoid but face it and find a solution to solve that problem.
Well, I only have to say, keep calm and carry on.
It'll get better. It's only one part of your life, and you're loved.
There's always more to come than this negative situation that is affecting your life right now. Look on the bright side.
Thanks very much to Pax and also to the public for their opinions. Well, after the break, I'll be talking to Kenneth King about his journey from growing up in a dangerous London council estate to becoming a successful filmmaker. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, and my show is all about improving your mental health and being happy. Join me every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 10 p.m. on my channel Sky 203. Visit chrissybshow.tv for more information and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Chrissy B Show. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Chrissy B Show and on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, where today's episode is all about staying positive in tough times. So far, I've heard from Audrey Tang, who explained how we can often link pessimism to prosperity, and also from Claire Namukolo, who used her negative feelings towards hair loss to do something really positive and help others. And now I'm very happy to be joined by filmmaker Kenneth King. Hello, Kenneth.
Hello.
How are you?
Fine, thanks.
So nice to have you on the programme.
You're welcome.
So you've got quite a story, so we'll try and get through as much as possible. So you are a filmmaker today, but growing up it was very tough for you. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, it started from a young age. I suppose I was about 7. And that was my first real sort of being exposed to violence.
Okay. Was that in your own house?
Yeah.
Yeah? What used to happen there?
A lot of arguments with the neighbours.
Okay.
And then it just sort of built up. And then one day I just answered the door, and there was a whole group of guys just bundled their way into the house.
Oh wow.
And my dad and my mum was all fighting. And
physical fighting?
Physical fighting, yeah. And I was just sort of pushed out of the way, and so it sort of started from there. And
how old were you when that happened?
It's about 7.
7?
Yeah.
That must have been really scary for you.
I was petrified as a kid. You would be, you know.
So did you actually witness your parents getting beaten up as well?
Yeah.
Or you did, yeah? Okay. And when you say growing up you experienced violence, were your parents violent towards you as well, or was it just with the neighbours?
It was exactly the opposite. That was the irony. They almost wrapped me in cotton wool, while the rest of my world was totally the opposite to what I was being shown at home.
Okay. So what was it? Yeah. What was the rest of your world like at the time then?
It was just fighting all the time at school. That's all we ever did at break time was fight. Outside of school, getting into more fights.
If your parents, because you say, you had a good example at home in terms of they were trying to protect you and show you another way, but how come then you'd get into fights at school? Was that instigated by other people? How was that?
Yeah, it was just, I don't know myself. It was just a tough area, I suppose.
Okay, it was like the norm, to fight?
It was like the norm, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so how did that affect you growing up then, Kenneth? Sort of coming from such a violent background, seeing that horrible scene, all those people coming in, just barging into your house, pushing you out the way, and then fighting with your parents. How did that affect you growing up and the way you felt about yourself as well?
It can make you very anxious, very nervous.
Yeah.
Psychologically, it can damage you, and you don't realise it, but as you get older, it's still there. And it can interfere with normal life, You just want to be you, and then all of a sudden you find, why am I feeling so nervous in this situation? Or why am I so anxious?
Okay.
And you're sort of haunted by those memories of your childhood,
Did you find that those memories would kind of flood back quite a bit to you?
Yeah.
Because I know with some people, for example, I know that in certain situations they remember stuff from the past. Other times people react to things and they get angry and they go through all these kind of negative things, but they don't know where it's coming from. They just kind of react to something when actually they're not linking it to what happened to them in the past. They're just exploding in anger or being violent, and they don't realise where it's come from. But in your case, you used to actually think of those times.
Yeah, it sort of creeps into your adult life and things like that. But you don't always understand why until, as you get older, you analyse and you think of the situations that you've been in, and you think they were dangerous situations.
Okay. How did it affect relationships with other people in terms of maybe
at first, I'll be honest,
friends?
I was actually reflecting what I'd been shown, so I was losing my temper a lot.
Okay.
I wasn't actually being violent, but I was getting close to becoming a product of my environment. So I was getting very frustrated. I couldn't express myself properly. And that frustration turned into anger.
Okay.
And then you start to manifest what you've been shown through your childhood and in your teens, because you don't think any different. You think that's all I know. So
how did that make you feel when you sort of found
terrible.
yourself?
You lose relationships, you lose friendships, You can't find any middle ground. It's either I run away or I explode.
Okay.
And you need to learn, that there is middle ground. You can find a way to sit down and reason. So when something upsets you, you don't lose your temper.
Yeah.
You can reason it through.
I mean, it was great that you were actually managing to do that, considering what you'd been through and the environment that you grew up in. So you had quite a bit of self-control. I mean, I know things weren't perfect and you didn't always succeed, but at least you were aware of it and you were trying.
Yeah, you're not blessed with that straight away.
Yeah.
Some people, they're not blessed with that at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are blessed with that, you're lucky because I've seen so many people go over the edge. Yeah. They weren't blessed with being able to see what's the root of the problem, and they've ended up in prison or worse. So I've been lucky.
So thankfully for you, you found an outlet, you found a passion in life, which is in filmmaking. Can you tell us how you got into that? Yeah,
well, more really by accident. My son was doing some stuff at college with his friends. He came to my flat and he said, "Dad, do you mind if we use your flat to do a scene for a film?" So I said, "This is interesting. Yeah, why not?" So I just watched what they did and I just fell in love with what they was doing. And I'd always liked films and acting anyway, so it just felt like a natural thing for me to get involved with. But I thought I'd help them first, just improve what they were doing.
Were they all right with that, with you getting stuck
don't
in
interfere, Dad, like that. Yeah, that was cool with it, yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so I invested in them to help them finish their film.
Yeah.
And then I said, I'd like to do that myself, so...
Did you feel like a spark, maybe, like, oh, I can do this, I want to do more of this?
Yeah. Well, I spent most of my adult life trying so many different things.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't for me, It was either I just gave up or I'll move on to something else. But with this, I can honestly say it's stuck with me. It's just, I haven't got fed up with it or bored of it or anything like that. It's been tough, don't get me wrong. You need a lot of patience, especially if you're making a long film. But if it's meant for you, then you'll stick through it through thick and thin. Doesn't matter what it throws at you, but I just love it.
How did it actually develop into like something that you're doing now, like on a regular basis, from that first time sort of helping your son to now what you're doing today?
It just intrigued me, I just wanted to get into it more and more. And then obviously what you watch on television and film.
Start analysing everything.
Yeah, it's just jumped out.
Have you been analysing us in the studio?
I've been analysing. No, I'll try and switch off. Sometimes I get on people's nerves to say, take your director's head off, Just watch the film and enjoy it, And I say, okay, fair enough. I'll just watch the film. But it drew me to it. And it took me a long time, I've nearly 42 years before I found something that I really loved.
It's never too late, is it?
It's never too late, no, not at all.
Yeah. And how's it going now? You've made a film, haven't you, already?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Great. Great, yeah. I hope one day to do it for a living, on a professional level.
Yeah.
But I just love doing it as it is, as a hobbyist anyway.
Yeah. So. And how does it actually help you with life in general? Because now that you've found something that you can really get stuck into, has that helped sort of you heal from the past? How is that going?
Yeah, it was almost a form of therapy, without sounding cheesy.
Yeah.
Because I write as well, so you would end up sitting down and you think, well, what can I write about? And I thought, well, just write what you've been through. That might help. So then you start putting a lot of you into your script and into your characters.
Do you think you would have been as good a writer if you hadn't gone through what you had?
No.
Okay.
I think
interesting.
And yeah, it is. I mean, you could still write. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think it would be as authentic. I don't think it would make as much impact unless you've lived it, or at least some of it. And just with that, I think, okay, I went through some bad stuff, but with what I've got now, where would I get all this lovely material to write unless I experienced it? So.
And that's actually a classic example of turning a negative into a positive.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Because even though, you went through such difficult times, but you've actually drawn on that to write and to make your films today. Yeah. Which is great.
I'd be stuck without it, really, when I think about it. So, okay, it was bad, it was difficult, it was violent, but got some lovely scripts.
Yeah.
That's
really good.
So I couldn't ask for more, so...
Ken, do you have any final words maybe for viewers that are watching that maybe have come from also a violent background and they're kind of like feel a bit stuck in life? What would you advise them?
Try not to repeat the same mistakes that you've seen made around you. Try not to become a product of your own environment, as tough as it gets. Just believe in yourself without sounding cliche, because you know you are special. We're all individuals. We are all here for a reason. You know, so don't let the bad stuff, you know, rub off on you. Try and see through it, and you'll come out all right in the end. You know.
Yeah. Great advice, Kenneth. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really think it's lovely that you shared your story. I know you're used to being behind the scenes.
Yeah.
This is something quite new for Kenneth, actually, isn't it? Being on TV, but it's great that you've actually spoken about this and given, like, you know, inspired our viewers as well. Because, like I said, there's lots of people that have been through a violent past, and they haven't sort of quite got to a point where they have found a positive outlet and you know, or gotten the help that they needed. But I'm sure after hearing your story, they'll find one.
Oh, hopefully, yeah, it'll help at least one person, and that's enough, you know.
Yeah. Brilliant. Lovely speaking to you, Kenneth.
Me too.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right, guys. So, as you know, we do like to cover all aspects of general well-being on this program, and there's nothing much better for us physically than keeping fit and healthy. So, sticking with today's theme, here's our fitness expert, Ben Cooper, showing us how we can help turn a negative such as smoking into a positive through breathing exercises. Let's take a look.
Hi and welcome to the Move 360 Studios. My name is Ben and we're here for the Chrissy B Show. Today's subject is non-smoking day. So we're going to focus all of our exercises on breathing. Okay, so if you've been smoking, you were a smoker and you're looking to give up, getting your breathing back to normal is essential. So we're going to start with a weight. You can use a book, you can use a cat, you can use a child if you want to. We're going to pop it onto our stomach. And then we're going to breathe diaphragmatically. So we're going to use the abdominal cavity to breathe. So breathing in, lift the weight up and breathe out. Breathe in through the nose and breathe out. So the weight or whatever you've got on your stomach should be going up and down, so it shows that you're breathing through the abdominal wall and not through the chest, okay, because this will be very common with smokers. Next, we're just going to do an exercise to fire up your hips. So if you're new to exercise, this is a great way of just activating these muscles, which are really important, and you can breathe along with it as well. So you breathe in, breathe out. Breathe out, and you should feel it here, just in the top of the glutes. Okay, and keep that going. You want to do about 15, 20 reps on each side to really get them fired up. Okay, and on to the next one, which again, breathing is going to be our focus. We're going to stretch the flexor chain, that's flexion, this is extension. Because when you smoke, you're going to be more drawn into that sort of posture. So this is going to be great to open up your quads, your hip flexors and up into the chest. As we go forward, breathe in, breathe out as you go back. In, out. So when you do this at home, do 10 on each side, and you can see actually that my hips are really opening up, my chest is opening up, and my breathing is matching that. The next exercise you can do from there, once you've done both sides, is straight in the same position into a nice split squat. So going up, and this will just get your glutes active. It helps your abdominals just to stay in position. Keep the arms open again, nice open chest and lungs. And up and down from there, knee touching each time and drive back up. So soon you start to feel that in the quads, the glutes will start to burn as well, so you're working them, you're working your abs. Do again 10 to 15 on each side, and then repeat that 3 times up to 5 times, as many as you like.
Thank you very much to Ben. Well, after the break, I'll be giving you my top tips on how you can turn those negative thoughts into positives. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone. Now, I'm always telling you guys how important it is to go out and be sociable and to have fun. Well, last week, Helena and I were fortunate enough to visit Korova in Tufnell Park, where we sampled their lovely new menu. This time, it was Pax Brown's turn, who went to Big Mo's American Diner in Aldgate with a very empty tummy. Let's see how he got on.
Hello. Well, thank you very much.
Would you like a tea or takeaway?
We'd like to eat in, please, yeah? Thank you. Wow, so here we are at Big Mo's Diner. It's a completely 50s themed venue. It really feels like you're in the 50s. In fact, one of the first things you read is "Welcome to the 50s" as you walk in. The food here is very enticing. We've got a menu that's completely dedicated to lunch and dinner and another one that's only desserts. Beautiful, thank you so much. So here we go, the first course is a selection of sliders. It's 3 miniature versions of the signature burgers. Alright guys, now I've had my main course and we're waiting for dessert, so while I'm waiting I'm just going to have another quick look at the menu. So obviously it's a classic American diner. We've got loads of burgers, we've got ribs, we've got chicken wings, got some beautiful sharing platters actually, which are suitable for up to 12 people I think. They also have a great selection of salads as well, and something like, you know, grilled chicken you can get as well with salad on the side, and that's really, really light. Wonderful, thank you. Beautiful. Now here's the dessert, another one of the signature dishes. So remember guys, it's important that you're always trying new things because it improves your mental health and well-being. Try new things, try new activities, visit new places because it really, really does you good. Hi guys, so here we are at Aldgate East Big Mo's Diner with Saha, the duty manager, who's going to answer a few questions for us. So Saha, hello.
Hi.
There you go. So what is Big Mo's all about? Tell us.
Okay, well, it's a family diner. Our main focus is to just get everyone to come in, whether it's kids, families, business people. We welcome everyone, and it's about having a nice comfort space, good food, good, amazing desserts, you know, that kind of place.
So who comes to Big Mo's? What's the kind of customer you get here?
Well, in this branch, we get everything because we're bang in the city. So we've got tourists, we've got students, we've got families, business people from Liverpool Street, all around the area. So every type of customer we get.
Thank you so much, Saha. So there you go, guys. Big Mo's Diner, Saha, the duty manager.
Bye.
Wow, Big Mo's. Lovely place for a family, group of friends, great food, nice and fresh, and they even got a private function room if you want to have your party or your private event there. Give it a try. Bye, guys.
So thank you to Pax and to Big Mo's. Well, now it's time for some tips on how to turn negative thoughts into positive ones. And I have 4 tips for you. So my first one is to learn from negative experiences. So in some instances, there are some people that seem to have constant bad luck, as though there's some sort of maybe negativity constantly surrounding them. But for most of us, this isn't the case. So we all go through positive and negative experiences, but try not to view every negative experience you have as something that wasn't supposed to actually happen to you. So some things do actually happen due to things that we do wrong or that we should have done differently. So there are certain things, for example, that happened to me where I really didn't understand why those things happened. You know, I was trying my best, and I went through quite a few negative experiences. I had maybe some conflicts with people as well, and I didn't understand why those things were happening when I thought everything was fine and everything was going well. And it was a very confusing time, and it wasn't a nice thing to go through. No one likes to go through those kind of experiences. But what I tried to do was, okay, look at myself. What could I have done differently? What could I change about myself? So actually, when I look back now, though I didn't enjoy those experiences. You know, it wasn't a happy, great time for me. It wasn't a time that I look forward to. But looking back now, I'm actually glad that I went through those moments, because I learned certain things about myself. I learned how to interact better with other people. And I believe I grew as a person. So try not to look at every negative experience that you go through and have the kind of attitude that, oh, this shouldn't have happened to me. It was unfair. You know, people were unfair towards me. Try not to look at things that way, because it's not going to get you anywhere. You're just going to end up feeling really badly about yourself, feeling angry with other people, when in actual fact, you could actually use those experiences to grow as a person. So let's look now at my next point, which is don't blame anything or anyone. So there are some people, unfortunately, that make excuses for their failures, but we really need to take responsibility for our own life. So maybe, you know, you get people that complain about, oh, I was born into a poor family, my parents weren't supportive, oh, you know, my nationality makes people discriminate against me, all sorts of things. And they end up falling into this thing of, you know, wallowing in self-pity. But if you think about it, there are other people that also maybe were born into not very good circumstances. Maybe they also didn't have supportive parents. Maybe they're from the same country, the same background, but they still make it. So they find a way of actually even using the negative experiences to propel them to do something positive. So as we saw from my guest earlier, Kenneth, he came from a really difficult background. He was surrounded by violence. He grew up around violence. But he didn't let that continue. He managed, even though he only found filmmaking when he was in his 40s, but he found something that could actually, he could get stuck into and do something positive with it. So it all depends on how we see things and how we look at things. And we can choose how our life turns out. Let's look at the next point, which is throw negative thoughts out. So according to Inc.com, it takes about 30 seconds of dwelling on a thought for it to enter our deeper consciousness. So that is quite a scary thought if you think about it, because if you're constantly having negative thoughts, that if you leave that to sit there in your mind, that will go in deeper, and that could actually affect the way your beliefs, the way you see other people, the way you see situations. It can affect how you feel. So something that you really should try to do, and this is what I do regularly, is police your own mind. Have a think. When you start to feel negative, or when you start to have these negative thoughts, you need to spot them immediately. And you won't spot them unless you're being alert to them. So we all know everyone gets negative thoughts. They come to all of us. No one is perfect, but what matters is how we deal with them when they come. So when you feel one coming, when you find yourself thinking maybe a horrible thing about someone, or you're getting angry with someone, or you're thinking something horrible about yourself, immediately say, no, I'm not going to think about this. Think the opposite. Do something positive. Say something positive out loud if you can. And that, should help you to police your mind better and actually get into the habit of thinking more positively about yourself, about situations, and about other people. Let's take a look at the next point, which is my final point actually. Make time for positivity. So if you surround yourself with negativity, so for example, your friends are very negative, or maybe the things that you watch on TV is always doom and gloom, or you're always reading bad news. If you're surrounding yourself with negativity, you will probably end up being quite negative. And you think, oh no, it's not going to affect me. I'm fine. I'm a strong person. But actually, you'd be amazed at how much what you surround yourself with has an influence on you. So do make sure that you surround yourself with positive things. So positive friends, things that you watch on TV, you can watch, rather than watching sort of depressing soap operas, why not watch something educational, something positive, something funny? If you do, unfortunately, hang around with negative people, or maybe there's certain negative people in your workplace, distance yourself from them. If they're doing you no good, what's the point of just hanging around just to show face? So it's better just to distance yourself and just keep it very sort of formal, if you like. And also do things that are good for you, like looking after your health, looking after, making sure you're eating a healthy diet. Find things that are positive and make sure you're doing them every single day, and you'll find that you will become a more positive person all round. Well, guys, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you would like to get involved in this show, we would actually love to hear your comments about what you think about this program. And, you know, if there's any suggestion that you have for a topic, you can email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And just to say that I do understand that it is quite difficult to change from being quite a negative person to a positive person, because I've shared on this program before many times about the things that I went through with depression and panic attacks and all sorts of mental health issues, but I was able to turn my life around. I consider myself a very positive person today. I go through, as I said, I go through negative things, negative thoughts come, but I know today how to deal with them and how not to let them affect my life. So I'm a happy person today. So if you'd like to know how I overcame all those negative things that I was going through and why I'm so happy today, you can visit my personal website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. And you can also turn your life around. Until next time, bye for now.
My experience was absolutely amazing. I enjoyed talking to Chrissy. She's very calm and she's very open to whatever you have to say about your experiences. So it's been great.
Yeah, thank you, Chrissy, for having me. It's been an enjoyable experience, and I hope that, you know, what I've shared with you today will reach at least somebody out there that's, you know, either having similar experiences or they've had the same sort of experiences in the past, and it will help them to overcome any problems that they're having, and hopefully what I've shared has been worthwhile. Thank you.
So the bottom line here seems to be, it really depends.